The siren stutters, then dies like it's been shot. Smoke hangs low over the wire. Floodlights buzz and flicker against torn fencing. A field phone dangles from a watchtower, swinging on its cord. Your boots find shell casings in the mud. And you realize it fast, there's only one uniform still standing. This is your life, level by level, inside a World War II POW camp riot. Act 1. The siren cuts out. The moment you realize the uniforms are gone except yours. Burnt wood and cordite sit in the back of your throat. The camp looks familiar in the worst way: double runs of barbed wire, a gatehouse, guard towers with ladder rungs slick from rain. Only the order is gone. The inner fence is breached, and men in mismatched coats pour through like water finding a crack. You step around a body and see hands already working. Belts unthreaded, keys pulled, rifles lifted by their slings. A prisoner shoulders a Kar 98K like it belongs there. You tell yourself you can disappear. You tell yourself they won't notice one more man in the smoke. You tell yourself you still have time. Then someone shouts that you're useful. The word pins you harder than a bayonet. Under the 1929 Geneva Convention, Article 39 says a camp has to be under a responsible commissioned officer. You look around at the empty towers, the silent gatehouse, the dead phones, and everyone understands that officer is gone. They drag you to the square because in a power vacuum, silence is a confession, and your uniform is the only flag left to plant. Act 2. The prisoners' appointment. Power handed to you like a grenade with the pin pulled. They line you up where roll call used to happen, the yard stamped flat by hundreds of boots. Faces form a ring: officers with clipped posture, loud men who love the sound of their own certainty, quiet men with knives kept low and close. Someone translates, someone else watches your hands. A choice is offered like mercy. Take temporary command, or get treated like every other guard they've found. It isn't private. It's a vote you can hear in breaths and mutters. You tell yourself it's just a title. You tell yourself it buys you minutes. You tell yourself you can hand it back the second help arrives. They shove the camp rule book into your chest, pages creased and greasy. Geneva language, treatment, discipline. They order you to enforce it on them, and on anyone who wants revenge. A committee declares itself, names written on scrap paper. Bread rations doubled, the infirmary opened, no reprisals if order returns. Then a captured field telephone appears, handset dangling. Call for help, they say, and the knife-edge truth follows. If you do, you're the first hostage to prove they mean it. You nod anyway, because leadership here is just agreeing to be the easiest target. Act 3. Count, chow, and control. Keeping men alive is easy, keeping them from settling scores isn't. You rebuild routine like sandbags against a flood. A head count in the yard. Ration lines that snake along the fence. Water points with men posted to keep cups moving. A curfew called at dusk because boredom turns into fists, and fists turn into blades. The towers are still there, and the phones still run down their lines. You make prisoners climb the ladders and stand watch. Report trouble. No shooting. They test the crank phones: 1 ring, 2 rings, and a voice answers, shaky but real. You tell yourself this looks like order. You tell yourself order will keep them from killing each other. You tell yourself the outside world will see a camp that still functions. You trade what you know: where the storeroom keys are kept, how to start the generator, which switch brings the floodlights back. Each concession becomes a precedent. Each precedent becomes a demand. Then the political enforcers surface, using riot smoke like cover. They point at men and say, informer, traitor, collaborator, as if naming is evidence. A prisoner is dragged into the open, arms pinned, face already swelling. If you let the beating happen, you're a clerk wearing a costume. If you stop it, you've chosen a side, and in this yard, sides are graves dug in advance. The phones start ringing from the towers. The fence line crackles with distant engines. And in the yard, the accused man sobs through broken teeth while everyone waits to see what command really means. Act 4. Geneva on a knife edge. You become a walking legal fiction holding back revenge. The air goes tight while the sobbing keeps going. You step in close enough to smell blood and wet wool, close enough that a knife could find your ribs before anyone even reacts. You point at the infirmary hut: 2 stoves, 6 cots, a tin basin. One German medic who won't meet your eyes. You order the accused man carried there. Not dragged. Carried. You make it sound like procedure, like paperwork. You tell yourself it's about rules. You tell yourself it's about keeping the yard from turning into a slaughter pen. You tell yourself it's about buying a clean record for whoever arrives next. A self-declared committee argues back, quoting what they half remember. Collective punishment forbidden. Reprisals forbidden. Camp discipline still supposed to exist. You use their own words like sand in a gear. You demand names, witnesses, something more than a finger pointed in smoke. You set up a hearing on an upturned crate, with a translator, 2 scribes, and a lantern. They obey, because paperwork can feel like mercy. And you realize law is just a thin blanket warm only until someone decides to pull it away. Act 5. The negotiation at the gate. Outside authority arrives, and you're the hinge between 2 trigger fingers. A truck engine idles beyond the outer wire, low and patient. Through the gate slats you catch helmets, rifles, a lieutenant's map case tapping his thigh. Nobody opens the gate yet. You walk to the gatehouse with your hands visible, palms out, the way sentries are taught when they don't know who owns the dark. Inside, the wall phone finally has a live line, its cord frayed where someone yanked it. You tell yourself the relief detail will see reason. You tell yourself the prisoners only want guarantees. You tell yourself you can translate trust into orders. You speak through the hatch, using numbers and terms that sound official. Headcount held at 1,142. Infirmary running. No weapons discharged since the breach. Committee controlling the yard. You ask for a doctor, an interpreter, and a promise no machine gun sweep the moment the gate swings. From behind you, you feel the prisoner's eyes on your back like a sight picture. You're not negotiating peace. You're negotiating the first second after the gate opens because that second decides how many bodies the camp will have to count. Act 6. The last uniform. Command collapses into a single, personal choice no rank can cover. The gate groans and moves a finger's width. Cold air slides in with the smell of diesel and wet canvas. A sergeant's voice barks for you to step clear. A prisoner behind you whispers for you to stay. You stand in the seam between 2 lines that don't trust each other. One side wants control back. The other wants assurance it won't be punished for taking it. You tell yourself you can keep them talking. You tell yourself you can keep the rifles lowered. You tell yourself you can walk out when it's safe. A British captain mud on his puttees, revolver lanyard tight locks eyes with you and reads the situation in one breath. One uniform inside, hundreds without. He orders you out. The committee orders you to remain as guarantee. You take one step, then another, slow enough that nobody mistakes it for a break. Behind you, the yard holds its breath. You learn what your uniform really is. Not authority, not protection, just a bright target stitched into cloth. When the shouting fades, the camp is still a camp. Wire still cuts the sky into squares. Paperwork still stacks on desks. Names still get written down. You carry the same smell afterwards: smoke, sweat, iron, because it's soaked into more than fabric. Rank can vanish in an hour, and rules can survive only as long as someone is willing to stand in front of a crowd and pretend they matter. There is no clean way to be the last uniform.